all right. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Entrepreneur Chamber podcast. This is episode 29, and as always, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Sosa, and my other host, my brother, IJUST. How you doing, I?
Peace. I'm doing well, my brother. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. You ready for another one? You ready for this
Oh
2-9?
man, absolutely, man. Anytime that we can get together and build and share these experiences of our business with the community, the Facebook group, the Entrepreneur Chamber, shout them out. Yes, it's always to me my pleasure, my brother.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So we're gonna get into it. So this episode today, um, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about sustainability. We're going to talk about sustainability, kind of like what this is the open discussion that me and I just are going to have, and we're just going to approach this subject, talk about it, what we think sustainability is.
I think that sustainability should be a core value of any business, regardless of the business environment or the nature of that business. So I think that's maybe a good starting point for us in this conversation today.
I mean, the way I look at sustainability is what is what is it about your business that is going to allow it to sustain and be viable and no matter what is going on here in society? Like like what no matter what happens, no matter what changes may come about in this world, that your business can still thrive in those situations, not be unfazed within those times, and be able to still, stand the test of time. When we're starting to get into a business, we start to look at it and we're saying, first we're saying, hey, what is my business? What do I want my business to do? And then we start coming up with our core values and our mission and what exactly is the vision for our company. But a lot of times, we don't know if, it's going to be able to still be around. So, just to give an example, like, when there was records out, when we had records, then there was a time that, if you were a company that just made 12-inch records, when the CD came, then, obviously you're out of business now because now compact discs have taken over the 12-inch. So if you didn't adapt and be able to understand that this was coming down the pipe, then you were messing. There's a good chance that your business would not be able to sustain, would not be able to stand the test of time, and your business might have to fold because you weren't keeping up with with where your industry or where your business was heading or the direction it was leading into.
And that's a great example because it also makes me think of, at one point where you have Black Friday, the stores, brick and mortar,
Yep.
would dominate as far as sales go. And then I remember how people started shopping online where it was like Cyber Monday. And then as of like 2, 3 years ago, there were more sales and revenue generated on Cyber Monday than there is on Black Friday of people going into brick and mortar stores. So
Yep.
if you're a brick and mortar store and you heavily dependent on Black Friday and things have shifted and change where the consumer is now making purchases online, then you have to shift with that model. And
Yeah.
you have to then have to offer your customers an option to buy things online and not the only option to just go inside of your store and make a purchase. So
Yeah.
those I think are great examples as far as sustainability and being aware of the trends that are happening in business as a whole, but specifically within the industry that you're in. So I think that's also important to keep in mind.
Yeah, I agree. Because, like, you're looking at, let's just say, Dunkin' Donuts, an example. Dunkin' Donuts, when they first started out, it was about donuts. I mean, there was,
Right.
the images, the logo back then, was more donuts. Then, as time went on, realized that, what, it's really, donuts are great, but what's really driving our business is coffee.
Right.
So we're now, now Dunkin', then, their logo was basically like a coffee cup. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
Dunkin' Donuts
America
kind of
runs
look.
on Duncan.
Right, was like right.
Coffee
America
cup.
runs on Dunkin', right? Like like he said. I'm sure, and that's just basically just staying, constantly looking at your business, analyzing your business, but then more importantly, analyzing the market and understanding society, where it's heading, what is what the public wants, and then kind of shaping your business to match the needs of the public. When now you drive by, they're starting to be just Dunkin'. They're starting to, a
Right.
lot of the Dunkin' Donuts now starting to take the donut off the name, and the
The
store is
name.
just called Dunkin' now. But that's just an example of Dunkin', of that company looking at looking at where they were at, in correlation to where society was at, and then changing their business structure or their business model to meet those needs.
The listener, I myself, those who are watching us on YouTube or who's a small business owner, this is the type of culture, the example that you're giving is what you want to foster within your business, which is flexibility and agility within your organization. Because as the market change, and it's basically economics 101 is supply and demand.
Yep.
So if the demand changes a little bit, meaning like people demand better grains of coffee. I remember, to your point, Sos,
Right.
when there was the still kind of dealing with donuts or whether we're going to go all the way with coffee, Dunkin' Donuts didn't really have good coffee. I would still go there for their donuts, but go somewhere else for the coffee.
Yeah.
And then I remember their coffee just got better. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, they really are having better coffee these days. And, that was them responding better to the market changes and listening to their customers and taking surveys and understanding, this is what the demand is. And those are things that I myself, look to identify within my
Yeah.
business and my business model. And all of that just lets me know that this is all like living documents. These are all things that you're constantly I don't want to say getting off course, but you're kind of tweaking along the
Yeah.
way. So
Yeah.
that's what makes it more like a living document. So whether
Yeah.
that's you remaining flexible and having agility within your organization, but at that point, you're going to want to conduct market research regularly
That's right.
and stay informed with changes and trends within your industry. And having the ability to embrace technology, new innovations, and anything that can improve your operation and your customers' experiences. So what are some other ways that you
Um,
think of that one can incorporate to have sustainability within their business, not just in the short term, but also in the
yeah.
long term? What are your thoughts?
I think you have to do some broad market type research, because you have to understand your audience. So there's a lot of things in play, that you need to start understanding. So, and I think understanding your audience or understanding your customer is, but definitely probably one of the greatest places that you could start. To give an example, um, Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, they, the game, at one time was the national pastime. Back in the 50s and 60s, baseball was actually the number one sport, not football, not basketball. So as time has gone on, they realize, okay, you know what? Now America, the number one sport is pretty much football. And then if we had to kind of rank them in order, probably baseball is probably now number three. And I would say maybe basketball probably is so these sports have taken over, and have captured the imaginations and captured the attention of the audience over baseball. So now baseball had to look at their own business model. And what they identified through their own research was, you know what? Our fan base is basically getting old. Our fan base is, basically the people that love baseball are people that grew up as kids loving baseball. But this new generation, they don't have the attention span. Your 20 or 30-year olds, which is where baseball had a big gap in their audience because they weren't capturing that audience because that's the millennial audience. That's they're dealing with everything for them is on the internet. Everything is streaming, so everything to them is
Right.
quick.
They even it changes where they even consume baseball, to your point, versus on TV. They were consuming it right off of YouTube, for example.
Right. And more importantly, they weren't paying attention because the games are 4 hours. So they realized that what the average viewer, especially within that age group, they can't hold their attention for 4 hours watching one sport. So they had to change their thing. So now they have a pitch clock. Now extra innings. The man starts at second base. These are like to us to the baseball purists are weird changes and looks a little bit crazy at first, but to me, I think that the changes have actually injected new life into baseball. Right now, this has been an exciting season. The numbers are showing that they're getting more viewership. There and also more viewership within that demographic that they were targeting, which is that 20 to 35-year-old viewer audience. So they're doing better within those numbers, and a lot of that was shortening the game. They realized that we can't have a 4 hour game. So now the average baseball game is before I said if the game started at 7 and I got home at 10 o'clock, I would know that pretty much, it's pretty much going to be like in the sixth inning or something. I'm going to have like three more innings to
It
watch.
was still in the first inning.
That's right. But now, if the game started at 7, 10 o'clock, that game might be over. You come home now, that game might be over. That's just an example of, baseball, which is something that we all know that's Americana as Americana could be. But they realized that if they didn't change, their business of baseball, may not sustain and may not stand the test of time, that it was starting to erode.
There were a couple things that I got out of that in the what you were articulating, and that was change and customer. Seems that were the two constants in what you were deliberating.
Yeah.
And change is the one constant. Like it's one thing that you can depend on out here is change. Is ironic as that sounds. But you have to be able to adapt and change, still be remainable to your core values of who you are and what your why is in business, and why you got started. So these are some of the things that we're talking about when we're giving you example after example of sustainability in business. Like Sos even gave some short-term strategies and tactics that you can implement. I gave you some long-term strategies
Yeah.
and tactics that you can implement as far as sustainability within business. And then the other thing that I got out of it, what you were saying, was customer. And, continuously monitoring what your customer thinks about your product or your service. You
Yeah.
may not agree with it. It doesn't, they say your customer is always right. Well, off camera, Sosa and I were talking about a customer that I have. I'm not going to mention those names, of course. And we're not really seeing eye to eye right now. And it's based off of I think the communication is there,
Yeah.
but I think it's based off of levels of expectations that we just may need to sit down, have a discussion about, and come to one common area as far as what are they expecting out of us and what we are expecting to provide to them. So
Right.
listening to your customer, identifying what your customer problems are. Like you said with baseball, one thing off top, the game was too long. Well, back in the 50s and 60s, probably was a little bit more leisure time. The games may have not been as often. You take the family, go chill out for 4 hours in one day. That made for a great day. It really kind of didn't
Right.
matter that the game was long back then. People seem to be a little bit like I like to say, in a rush to get nowhere.
Yeah.
Life was a lot more laid back. Not that, I'm just going by what people who are from that era have
Yeah,
told me. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So I think staying connected to your customers
yeah,
through regular communication and getting their feedback to better understand their needs and their preferences, and then hopefully coming to a common agreement as to how you guys are going to move forward. I think is
yeah,
another way of sustaining or having a sustainable business structure.
yeah.
So I think what you were saying as far as
Yep,
change and as
that's right.
far as customer, that's what stood out to me. And understanding that you can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can go talk to your customer and say, hey, listen, this is where I think the disconnect is, with all due respect.
That's right.
And we're not going to do this. We're going to stand by our grounds because it's already outlined in the contract. This is what you agreed to. Now, flexibility may come where you may have to make an amendment to the contract and
Yeah,
be a little bit more flexible, especially if that customer's been a long standing customer of yours.
yeah.
And that goes whether you're in a service based industry or the product based industry.
Well, going back to like what you were saying, like we're saying like like baseball back in then, there was more leisure time.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly right. So it's because now now you have to look at it. Now there's a lot more competition for that space for those 4 hours. You got
That's right.
baseball
That's
didn't
right.
have there was only a couple of channels.
That's right.
TV was
That's
only
right.
like 12 channels. Now you
Mm-hmm.
have 500 channels. You got 20 million. You got 20 things going on at the same time. You got all these new sports that have been introduced. Cornhole and table tennis or whatever the one game is called or whatever.
Axe throwing. I
Yeah,
saw
I
that
mean,
one.
all kind of stuff that
Mhm.
before wasn't on it. There was no competition for that time. So baseball, if they stood on their high horse, they could have just kept that model, and every year they'd be losing more and more customers because what happens is your audience isn't changing with you. You had the same old audience. You know what I mean? It's like I remember one time Nas said the rapper Nas said,
I
he
was
said,
thinking hip hop too. But go ahead, man,
what he
bro.
was, he said something like, he said, it's on one of his albums. He said, I got fans that I got 40-year-old fans because he's in his 40s, and I got 20-year-old fans. You know what I mean? So basically, but because he understood he couldn't have the same. He needed to start changing. If he wanted to stay around, he can't produce the same exact music and that he did in the '90s in the year 2023 because it's a totally different audience now listening to his music. Yeah, he still has his core audience, but he would not be around if it was just us listening to him. He has to be able to have the wherewithal to be able to change and adapt so he can start picking up some of the new audience that are a lot younger than him, so therefore it can help him stand the test of time, help him sustain. And I think that those things are like very important. And sometimes, look, sometimes you're forced. Um, sometimes your change is going to be forced upon you, and you have to be able to recognize that. Like football. I mean, football is not the same sport that you and I grew on. Back then it was more about hitting, and when they had highlights of football, it was always somebody hitting somebody. Where now, because of concussion, they can't portray that. This is a totally different time. So that was change that was forced upon them, but they had to start adapting to that particular problem. So they had to change their game a little bit too. I mean, football now, you have all these rules about you can't touch the quarterback. Now, you can't lead no more with your head. I mean, so some of these things were things that society or the environment around them forced them to do. But again, if you don't have that answer or you're not prepared for that, then you have a very your chance of failure. You have just doubled your chance of failure.
It's an excellent point, man. For those that are watching us now on your YouTube, you're tuned in to the Entrepreneur Chamber podcast with
Episode 29.
co-host Sosa and
That's right.
IJUST. And we're at episode number 29. So once you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, jot a comment, share, like. And today in episode 29, we're discussing about the sustainability of your business. Whether that's on a short term, you may be in business for the short term. That's okay. But you still want to be or have some type of sustainability even within short term because you don't want to crash and burn.
That's
And
right.
if you're one that wants to go the long term, we're also giving you a lot of great examples and analogies that are allowing you to form that logic, whether, we're giving it to you from sports and how it relates to business, and allow you to picture what we're saying so you can have a clear understanding. Because a lot of times when you can picture it in your mind, it gives you a clear understanding of what's being said. So I think the examples that you gave, Sos, and continuously going back to sports, because sports and business, whether folks want to believe this or not, it goes hand in hand. That's
Yeah.
why sports is a business.
Yeah. That's
It's
right.
a big business.
That's
Don't
right.
get that twisted. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, all them athletes will tell you it's a business, whether it's boxing, basketball, football, or baseball. And, when they go with those numbers and paying attention, it's to produce a better product for
Yeah.
their consumer. So they're constantly making tweaks, they're constantly aware.
Yeah.
And that's what's making them stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So, how can I just, Winston McIntosh, JMD Janitorial, how can I, who watch sports, in my downtime and my leisure time, instead of just being caught up in the aesthetics of sports, but just use that as an example to then translate that to my business and say,
Yeah.
ha, that light switch hit me. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
being able to adapt and overcome. So, another thing that I think of, Sos, in addition to the excellent points that we've already made, and it kind of land me back on what you said earlier, but it also moves the conversation forward. And it's about educating yourself,
Yeah.
educating your staff.
Yeah.
That can also help you sustain your business. So for me in the cleaning industry, commercial cleaning industry, if there's a new piece of equipment, there's a new tool, cleaning solution that's out that can allow us to be more efficient and effective, then you may have to take some time out, or not even may have, but you will have to take some time out to, educate your employees on the new equipment that's
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
The new tools that you can use that can help make their job more efficient and effective at the same time. So I think continuously training, educating employees within your industry so you guys can continuously be current on developments and new skills that you will develop within your industry also helps you become a more sustainable business in the short term and in the long term. So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think those is things to think about as well.
100%. I mean, I think that if your business, I mean, put it, simply put, and some of the examples that we bring are, yeah, we're using sports, we're using music, things like that, because these are easy examples that we could all visualize. And
Mm-hmm.
so, we give an example. We don't want to give an example of company nobody ever heard of. We want to give examples of things that we all know of, and even if we don't follow it or we're not into it, we still have a basic knowledge of it because it's all around us. But simply put, if your business can help, can benefit society, can benefit the economy, and can benefit the environment, both in the long term and the short term, well, then guess what? There's a very good chance that your business is going to be able to sustain for however long you want it to be. If you want to be 5 years, there's a good chance you're going to do well within those 5 years. And if you're trying to do the long term, if you're in those three, if you're touching those three factors, that's an excellent chance that you're going to be around, because because those are all factors that are basically um, components that are essential to the growth of our business. And if we're affecting those areas, then think about it. Those are the major areas, there's a good chance that we're going to be around if we can impact, if we could provide a benefit to society. I mean, all our business, if you have a business, pretty much is going to have a benefit to society if it's a business, right? Or at least we all would like to think. Um, if we're making business and that business is growing and doing well, we're impacting the economy. You're impacting the economy because you're providing a service that's needed, and that service that's needed is provided money flow into the economy, which is always needed for our economy just to maintain, to sustain and be robust and be able to grow and be able to be around. So we're not all, sitting around in depression. And then, if you can affect, your environment, if you could help the environment around you, if your business is essential to where you're at, there's a good chance that your business is going to be around. I mean, I know when McDonald, whoever the gentleman who started McDonald's, I'm sure he didn't think the McDonald's would be, a global brand,
It was two
but
brothers.
two
It was
that's
two
right.
brothers.
But guess what? It has become a global brand because they themselves also adapted with the times. McDonald's back in the day, they were just, it was pretty much they had Big Mac, they had those things. But as time went on, we all noticed that they started changing too. They started offering coffee, at a time. They realized, okay, some people can't afford these. We need to start a value menu. If you've been on this earth more than 20 years, 30 years, you see how McDonald's has changed over time.
You were just connecting all the dots. And like what came to me was relativity, like how relative and inclusive everything is. So the law of relativity is, you know, how does A and C have a relationship if C has a relationship with B and A has a relationship with B? Well, consequently, A and C now has a relationship, even if they don't do business with each other. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact that they both do business with B
Hey,
makes them, in some shape, form, or fashion, a part of the law of relativity.
that's
So
a
if
great point.
you are in doing business, you're affecting the community. You're affecting, the economy as a whole because the community affects the economy, and then now, like you're saying, just from open up the business and being productive, you are a part of the bigger picture. And these are the key points, that are going to help you become a sustainable business. And
Yeah.
the way that Sosa and I are articulating these are examples that are not written down.
Yeah.
I don't, these are examples that we're
Yeah.
giving y'all that's coming to us because
Yeah.
of the time that we're paying attention and close attention to within our own business is like building partnerships
Yeah.
and collaborations with other businesses.
Yeah.
So if you don't have what we call keep your ears to the street, and that business that you have collaborated with, they have their ear to the street, then you can get new information, meaning like
Yeah.
trends and changes that are happening within the industry you're currently in. So I think building partnerships and collaborations with other businesses to tap into new markets and have other opportunities are ways that can help you become a sustainable business as well.
Yeah, when you were talking, I immediately was going back to, there was one business mentor, and I remember when I was first going into business, he told me something. He said, when you're in business, man, don't ever get fat. I was like, what do you mean? He said, man,
Right.
he said, when you start eating, don't ever get fat. He said, in business, it's always good to be lean and agile. And
Mhm.
I said, well, lean and agile. What you mean by that? He said, man, because business is always ever changing, and the leaner and more agile you are, the quicker you're gonna be to get in and out of those problems. He said, if you
Mhm.
get fat and lazy, when those problems come, you just gonna be sitting on your morals, and you're not gonna be able to adapt to change. because you're not going to be able to move fast enough to keep up with the change. So when when you were saying that, it kind of brought me, to that. It kind of brought me, kind of here, his words kind of came back in my mind, because I think that is so true. I think, if you're trying to create a business that's going to be around, you know what? You got to be lean. You got to be able to be flexible. You got to be able um to be lean enough and fast and quick enough to be able to change and adapt to those changes as they come in real time. Because
Real
one
time.
thing with whether you're in life or you're in business, the one thing that you don't want to be is you don't want to be reactive. You want to always be proactive. You want to always be ahead of the curve and not on the other end of that curve. You're not, you when everybody's made that turn already, you don't want to be not even approaching that curve yet. You want to either be with everybody else or ahead of it. And I think that that's, kind of, as we were talking about this subject, and as you were talking, it kind of brought me back to that and started, those, that, his words and kind of those images started going and, started taking my mind there.
Absolutely, man. So, I think, at this point, I'll give like one more example, Sos, and then,
Yeah.
I know we wanted to break up, kind of what we're talking about,
Yeah.
and, go into our bonus segments, as we call
Yeah.
it. And for those that's been watching us, and you see the new changes and the growth and the development of our podcast, then you see that we add bonus segments to the end of each podcast,
Yeah.
to kind of break things up. So the kind of last point that I'm gonna make is like monitor your finances.
Mm.
Stay on top of your finances closely. Become and be prepared to make swift adjustments to your business model to remain profitable. I think that's what So started off with in the beginning of this podcast: profitability.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if what you're doing does not work, and when I say doesn't work, meaning that you're not becoming profitable or you're not profitable, and I don't mean in the short term, because there are
No,
ebb and flows of business,
that's a fact
but
though.
at the end of the day, it's about that profitability, y'all. That's what
That's a
we're in
fact.
business for.
That's a fact. Because at the end of the day, listen, all this we're talking sustainability and sustaining. Well, first of all, if your business is making any money, you're not going to sustain. You're not going to be sustained. So first and
Right,
foremost, you
right.
have to be making money.
Right. Clean cut and dry is over. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
you ain't making no money. To forget about sustainable. There's nothing to sustain.
Yo, at that point, you back to the drawing board.
You're right, right, because your boat ain't even left the dock.
Oh man. Hey,
Because when we
listen,
talk
man.
about these things, and we're like, yeah, I mean, that might be going too ahead of it. I mean,
You
they're like,
getting
man, these
ahead of your
brothers talking about
skis on that one.
sustainability. I'm not even making any money yet.
Yeah. You got way ahead of your skis on that one, buddy. Take it on back. Oh man. Hey, listen though, so hey, I love when you said that, man, because that's so true. You know what I'm saying? That's so true. That's
Yeah,
so true,
man.
bro.
But just go ahead. I would just go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off when you said
Nah, nah, nah. I mean,
that.
but listen though, it's no need for me to even draw that out, man. I think you hit that one right on, right on. You, hey, listen, I was on second base. All I got was a double out of it, and you drove the run home. You know what I mean? You did what you had to do.
You were like,
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sure your finances and then, profitability. I was just like, you know what? We're talking about sustain. You're going to sustain nothing unless you make a profit, first of
Hey,
all.
hey, listen, because that's how we started the podcast. That's how
That's
you started
right.
it.
That's
Listen,
right.
man. First and foremost, profitability. Because
That's
I mean,
100.
at the end of the day, that's what we're doing it for, and to bring it all full circle to provide for our families. That's not the end all be all, but you're looking to be profitable so you can provide and do things for yourself and your family. And
Profitability,
yeah.
adaptability equals sustainability.
You know what? Listen, man, you need to coin that one. That goes like Shaq say, underdog, put that on a t-shirt. That belongs on a t-shirt. So like Shaq say, underdog, put that on a t-shirt.
Put it
Yes,
on the
yes,
t-shirt.
yes. So, hey, listen. all the viewers, man. I think that's the perfect segue when my brother so put it like that. So
Yeah,
we've been talking about and this is Sosa and not off air, as being a business owner, you have real life. And there's like in business, ups and downs in life. Excuse me, in business. And the same thing as you, and I'm preaching to the choir, but as our viewers know and listeners know, there's ups and downs in life. And
yeah,
one thing that we want to highlight is the ups in the up in life, and the up in life is, when you have your loved ones, your wife, your spouse, your significant other, your children, friends, family, relatives, the whole 9 yards. You want to have that ability to let them know that you love them,
yeah,
because, none of us are promised tomorrow. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So, like Sos was saying about profitability and sustainability, well, you ain't sustaining nothing if you're not even here to sustain it,
that's right.
and that's real talk as well. So,
Yeah,
or even what is sustainability in business if you don't have your inner circle who you
yeah,
love dearly to
yeah,
share that with the
yeah,
ups and downs in business, that
yeah,
inner circle, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And, being able to go through the ups and downs with your inner circle,
yeah,
for me, my spouse, my family, they
yeah,
see my struggles, they see the times when we're doing good.
yeah,
I share in the abundance when the company is doing well and profit is higher.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And when we got to tighten up the screws, guess what? They feel that part of it as well.
yeah,
So I think being able to tell our loved ones, our inner circle, our family, our friends, that we appreciate them. Thanks for being on this journey as we go through entrepreneurship. And I'm just
definitely,
speaking for myself to
definitely.
those that are listening and watching us now on YouTube. You got to take the time out as we grind every day as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. Sometimes I have my horse blinders on,
That's
my
right.
head is down,
No
and
doubt.
I got to get a call from my big bro Sosa, and he got to just say, how you doing today? You know what I'm saying? And man, I just take the horse blinders off. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? And help me lift my head up and say, man, you know what? Let's put things in perspective, even when it comes to business, in general. So
yeah,
without being long-winded, I'm gonna pass it off to my brother Sos,
yeah.
and I'm gonna kind of use that even as my closing statement. So as an entrepreneur, as
That's
someone
real.
who's self-employed, someone who's an investor, a small business owner, take the time out. When you are doing well, enjoy the moment. Use some of that profit and share with your family, man. Go on vacation, enjoy the fruits of your labor. Don't get so caught up in, always thinking 30 years ahead or always thinking 30 years in the past. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to just say, hey, man, I can make the money, I can lose the money. I can make the money, I can spend the money. I can make the money, I can spend the
Yeah,
money. And that's just business as a microcosm. You know what I'm saying?
real.
So yeah, once again, I'm gonna pass the baton off to my brother
Yeah,
Sos for all the entrepreneur chamber Facebook
yeah.
group. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. This is episode number 29. And my brother Sos, man, the floor is yours.
I mean, I was just gonna say, listen, if that's your closing statement, I mean, that's because listen, that sometimes your authentic self and your authenticity and your authentic self a lot of times is your best statement. So that was from the heart. So that's what you're going with. So I'm cool with that. Love it.
That's
But
right.
when we were talking, we were talking, so we're at the end, as you know, if you follow, if you guys follow us, you know that we like to always break things up at the end. We have a topic, and then at the end, sometimes if we have guests, we talking about a top five, or we might talk about current events, or we might talk about, what's going on in our personal lives. I mean, last week, we spoke about us as fathers having these tremendous weekends with our family and the accomplishments of our offsprings and our children, and watching them grow and spread their wings in this world. And then this week, we kind of were talking about the same thing, and I was kind of taking, I was kind of in thought, um, and I was like, this is an excellent thing to talk about because, this coming weekend, next week, there's a good friend of mine, a brother of mine who passed away years ago, and he has two sons, one of which I'm godfather to, and his youngest son, unfortunately, earlier this year was in a horrible accident. Him and his friends were filming at the train station, and I don't know, what happened, but he had went back for something, and somehow he got hit by a train. I don't really know the particulars that happened, but this was a promising young kid, excellent kid, man. I love this kid. He was so bright, so intelligent, so introspective. One of the most introspective young men I ever met. And I'm not just saying that because I know his family, like he truly was. And I'm just thought so when I said, man, I think we just need to stay on that family thing. I just started thinking about this because there is another side, to this. And I think, you have your family, man, you have your kids, your wives, your mothers, your fathers, your brothers, your sisters, your closest friends, whoever it is that's in your family or it's in your inner circle that you love, man, let's always be mindful to always show and demonstrate love to them because listen, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. None of us are guaranteed the next minute. The minute brother I just and I stop filming this show, something could happen to the very next moment. We don't know what life brings. Then I have another friend who has has children, and his youngest child, um, she about to graduate high school, and she was in an accident where she lost her life. This is just the other day. So, so I think, I'm sure when he woke up that morning, and they spoke that day, he didn't know that that would be the last time he would speak to his child. So, we never know, man. If there's an argument or you at odds with someone, man, a lot of times it's not really that deep. The scripture says, should never go to bed angry. Um, and don't ever let the sun come down with you still holding that anger, like let it go. And I think that's real important, man, because we don't know what life is going to bring. And that family's now devastated, to have that. And none of us know when things like that are will happen. And so I don't want to bring this show down, um but man, if you have kids, man, let them know you love them, man. I mean, as parents, the easiest thing that we could do for our kids, the very least thing that we could do for our kids, is show them and tell them that we love them each and every moment of the day. You'll be surprised how much that helps a kid first and foremost. That right there, you're giving that kid a chance to make it in this world just by you telling them and showing them how much you love them each and every day. So we can't take that for granted. So without being long-winded on that, I'll just say, man, whoever you love, whoever you care about, never be shy or hesitant to express that. And don't let your last conversation be a negative conversation with anyone that you truly love. Even if you get into an argument, try to forgive and forget that as quickly as you can and give them a call back. Like, well, I don't agree with that. And I still don't like you. I still don't like what you said, but I love you. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
So,
I can love you, but I don't gotta like you all the
yeah, I don't
time.
like what you said. Just yeah, but damn it, I
I can
love you. You
still
know what I
love
mean?
you, but I
That's
don't gotta
right.
like you all the time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And I just think that that's important, because man, we don't know how long none of us are going to be on this earth, man, and a lot of the relationships that we have are the most important things to us, and I think that we just have to express that, um, because we don't know, my brother, and again, I don't want to name no names, because this is something fresh that happened, and out of respect to the family, I don't want to, mention any names or anything, but this is a family that my family loves. We're close to this entire family. We love this family dearly, and we feel his pain as well. And it just, such a sad weekend, such a, really just such a sad time, and it's so ironic because like Monday, I'm supposed to be going. to the young brother who I was speaking about with the train. He's getting a scholarship Monday and an award Monday, and I was gonna go to that, and then I got this news the other day about my man's daughter, and so again, listen, this show, man, we keep it real here,
Mm,
and we talk
authentic.
about real things, and this is something that touched me, and I just thought, we bring it to you, the listener, and you, the members, the listeners, and the constituents that that listen in and tune into us all the time, and we just wanted to share that because we feel that that's probably more important than any business talk that or any subject or any subject matter that we talk about here on this show.
100%. So, with that being said, we want to thank all of the members of the Entrepreneur Chamber Facebook group. We want to thank all of the members of the Entrepreneur Chamber podcast community that
Yes,
Sosa and I are building here on YouTube. Tell your loved ones you love them, and more importantly, show them that you love them. That's what I got from what Sosa was saying. Not just tell them, but also show them that you love them. So,
yeah.
my brother, if you would,
You already know. As always, you already know, y'all. This is what we do. And we can't do what we do without you. So, as always, please continue to help empower us so we can help empower you.
peace all and be victorious. Peace.